Well, somebody didn't like me playing that video, so we're gonna go on to something else. Just make sure everything's up and running. Come on. Stupid ads. Alright. Is it working? Oh, okay. I think we are back online. Maybe. No, looks like we're frozen on Rumble. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try to figure out what's going on Rumble. Our stream seems to be frozen. Unless it's just my end. Nope, we're good. There we go. Streamlabs seems to be glitching on me today, but I think I got it. Alright, so since it seems like something glitched out with my stream, we are going to move on to something else. Let's go to, like I was saying before, Nathan from Old Man Builds has put out some amazing videos, and I haven't had time to look at all of them, but I want to go over there and just get a peek of some of the stuff that he's been putting out. Again, this is Old Man Builds YouTube channel. I highly suggest you go over and subscribe to Nathan's channel, Old Man Builds. He is doing a lot of great work reverse engineering the Graviflyer. He's an amazing engineer, and let's take a look at what he's got here. All right, so he's got some John Hutchinson he just put out. Yeah, I think that's a good segue. Let's segue into some John Hutchinson videos.
When first meeting John, I got the impression that this is an individual that has pursued a life calling unlike any other. Several other lasting impressions are created when you enter his unique world. A crowded apartment, which is bursting at the seams with electronic equipment from floor to ceiling. In the bedroom, the kitchen, and the living room. A decor that would give the Martha Stewart mindset night terrors.
Basically, it's very selected military Navy surplus equipment. And it's used for RF generation and RF monitoring, radio frequency production, analyzing the signals, and actually putting them back out in transmission forms and that. So a lot of this stuff is used in experiments that caused me some rather interesting adventures.
Experimenting with the electromagnetic field is the key to several of John's discoveries. One of them is called the crystal energy converter, or power cell, which seems to produce sustainable electricity from the air around us.
The technology itself was...
So if you follow our podcast, League of Extraordinary Inventors, which I'm so blessed to be invited, because I don't consider myself an inventor at all. All I did was reverse engineer the rodent coil, and basically that wasn't that hard to do. All the information's out there. But if you listen to Mike from Faraday Research from our League of Extraordinary Inventors podcast, he is actually doing work with a battery cell that he says is inspired by the crystal design, the crystal battery from Hutchison. And basically it has no input power, and it's able to put out an enormous amount of energy, and he stacks these plates together. And if you watch our channel, and also Free Energy Fridays podcast with Crypto Alchemist, and our podcast on Mondays, Fringe Think Tank, hosted by Nathan and myself. So all of those great podcasts are available all week long for your entertainment and your educational purposes, and we go over a lot of some of these inspired devices, some of which apparently Mike especially is designed based on John Hutchinson's design with the crystal battery here. And it's very fascinating. I don't know too much about it, but he talks about it on our podcasts, and honestly I'd like to learn more, so let's watch this video.
Again, the Casimir cavity resonances using roughly about 25 to 30 millimeter diameter crystal wafers of different materials like silicon, germanium, and many other wafers.
I think he's using the Casimir
inside
effect.
A tube. And this tube was, of course, enclosed with a micrometer feed. And on the outside of that was a barium titanate cylinder, which is got piezoelectric properties, and it resonates at 18 kilohertz. This thing turns into like a supercapacitor. So when this started to work like this barium cylinder, barium titanate cylinder would amplify the energy, and then I would get a crude form of direct current. So this inspired me to build up on it with good engineering practices.
You guys hear that? It's like an echo. Or there's a double audio
John
on
gave
there.
a demonstration of his portable
Hey, what's
crystal
up, Gerald? How
converter
you doing?
At the end of a successful 1995
Thanks for joining us.
Japanese lecture tour on new energy.
Yeah, you hear that? Like somebody re-recorded something on top of it, or it sounds like a double audio, and it's What? That's going to be really annoying, but we'll push through it.
In Hiroshima.
I did my demonstration. I had 2 TV cameras
Or maybe it was
me,
just that segment.
and there
Yeah,
was,
poor editing, maybe.
a third at a distance.
It's
covering
very
all of
noticeable.
this. And I gave the demonstration. It worked fine. Then I decided, without even doing anything, just take everything all apart, just destroy it. This is my end demonstration. Time to destroy the thing. So I took it all apart. And the TV people got in there with their lights and all that and checked everything, and there's no batteries.
Okay, I see what the producer did here, or the editor or whatever. They had these video clips of John Hutchinson, and they kept the audio on top of the narrator, who is John Hutchinson, which is making it very confusing for me. But well, let's bear with it. It's only a few minutes long, and it's not too bad, but it's definitely noticeable. Charles says, I have my PoE rodent coil ready to hook up. I think the way you did it did to verify the results. Question, channel A and channel B channel A positive and negative channel B. Wait, what? He has that phrased weird. A1 negative. What? Okay, I think I understand what he's saying. So yes, channel A is hooked up to the output of the stereo amp receiver, right? Channel A is hooked up to the output. Channel B, which is not connected to channel A in the coil, but it's lying on top of each other in the bundle of wire. Channel B is connected directly to the load. So you have a positive and negative from channel A, yes, hooked up to the power supply essentially in your tone generator, the stereo amp receiver in your tone. And then you have the positive and negative hooked up to the load on channel B. But those two positives and negatives are not connected directly. They're just lying on top of each other in a bifowler twisted pair of wire. So, yes, essentially, that's what you do. You separate the two channels there, and they each have a positive and a negative. An outgoing and a return, or whatever you call it. I don't know the proper technician or engineering phrases, nomenclature, whatever you call it.
It's everything you wished for. Your site traffic is skyrocketing until...
Oh boy.
Visible source of energy generation.
Batteries?
Since there is no visible source of energy generation, these devices are running into resistance from the current scientific thought. They seem to be violating physics' first law of thermodynamics, the conservation of energy, which means that you can't get more energy out than you put in.
It's not that.
That's why this new energy discovery is perceived as the old idea of perpetual motion, creating energy from nothing in a finite closed system. The theory in quantum mechanics proposes that such devices operate in an open system, harnessing the energy present in the vastness of space. It is believed that the crystal converter works on the principles of the Casimir effect. In 1948, Dutch physicist Hendrik Casimir discovered an effect to release heat using small charged plates that utilized fluctuations of the electromagnetic field at a very high frequency. This new energy source appears in the equations of quantum mechanics as early as 1925. Today it is called the zero-point energy field. It produces jitter with fluctuations of electricity in the atoms of molecules at 0 degrees Kelvin, the point in which molecules are supposed to cease movement. Zero-point energy is difficult to measure and validate because it interacts with all elementary particles. By resisting conventional wisdom, John has continued with his efforts to produce a simple solid-state power cell from his adjustable prototype.
The plates have to be charged, and they have to move together. That's a bit of a problem. The moving together, I would use a tunable micrometer. But after a while, all these little plates would break down because of the heat and distortion and the pressure from the little micrometer. So I had to think that what else could I do to have something that is usable, practical. Then I thought of maybe taking all kinds of, almost like a dust of platelets of germanium and other metals, and mixing them into a mineral mix with great heat to get any hydrous material out of them, and also at the same time, as it's all cooling down, I would apply 20,000 volts direct current, then dropping it down to 45 volts direct current. So they're memorized.
John continues to refine the development of his power cell with the help of modest foreign investment. He's been able to reduce the size of the converters to those of conventional household batteries. Once perfected, the crystal matrix can be seamlessly integrated to any device that requires electrical energy. The changes could be revolutionary.
It's even hard to conceive of because it's so vast. It can incorporate all aspects of electronics, propulsion, transportation. For the environment, it would create more industry in changing over from fossil fuels into more modern vehicles for transportation and that. So it'd create a lot more jobs. Basically, we're dealing with a zero emission problem and actually using natural materials to harness this energy, meaning it's basically just minerals. When it comes down to the technology, it's exotically simple in production, and it's also factory compatible.
Zero-point energy is a hot topic in certain small scientific circles. Recent developments in quantum physics indicate a possible massive energy source.
It's been calculated that 1 sugar cube size, or 1 cubic inch, or Hal Puthoff says 1 cubic foot of the space-time right here now, right in front of us, around us. If you can capture that, there's enough energy in that block to power the Earth's energy needs for 100 years. Richard P. Feynman, Nobel Prize winner, states a light bulb-sized piece.
A U.S. patent was issued on technology based on this energy source. This is a significant event because the U.S. Patent Office clearly states it will not issue a patent for something it deems to be perpetual motion.
It's interesting to note that my competitor in this has a U.S. patent already, Dr. Franklin Mead, who does know my research.
Well, I guess nature's not getting a patent from the U.S. Patent Office, is it?
Through the United States Patent Office. Want to see, it's very interestingly similar to my stuff.
As the application for a patent draws near, there is still much research and development required. Since the lack of interest by Canadian scientific institutions is clearly evident, a growing foreign interest will most likely provide the financial impetus to bring this discovery to fruition. At least Canadians will be able to breathe easier, knowing this technology will contribute to a cleaner environment.
And we're back in third quarter planning. Adams is quarterbacking this project, and she is looking pretty.
Well, that is very interesting. Oh, hey, what's up, Nathan? How you doing? He says the guy on Monday is winding a coil. I think it is 18 to 36 divisible by 9. Nice. Yeah, so if you guys aren't aware, we're having a gentleman on, I forget his name, but he has some rodent coils, PoE coils that he'd like to demonstrate. As you know, I'm a big fan of the PoE coil. I have one myself that you can get a do-it-yourself guide for right now in the description of this video, where it produces apparently 155% efficiency. And that's nothing new, that's not surprising because these coils, that's what they're supposed to do. And I'm very excited to see this gentleman's setup. He's got some amazing videos. I believe it's the same gentleman who has the wireless Tesla coil, right? And also Gerald's here in the chat, a YouTube chat, by the way, because we're multi-streaming right now. We're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitch, so we're all over the place. And Gerald right here is on YouTube, and he is what I call the Lord of the Rings. He has this amazing vortex ring. It's not a PoE coil. But it is a vortex coil. It's basically a giant ring-shaped coil with a massive amount of coil in it, and it's wound in some kind of geometric pattern, a sacred geometric pattern. And basically, he can hook up a lot of different devices. He can hook up basically everything that he's hooked up so far. Like I've seen him hook up a whole panel of lights, and there is no change to the input power. Like the input power doesn't change, and the output just keeps on growing, and it's remarkable. And depending on if he has the pickup coil on the inside or the outside, he gets more or less. It's very, very interesting. And according to Gerald, he utilizes 7 different unconventional ways of electrical engineering. And these are different methods that they teach you to avoid specifically in mainstream engineering, such as when you're making a circuit, you don't want paralytic capacitor effect, right? You don't want to one capacitor, they teach you to feed off the other. So this concept of recognizing that these effects aren't just random, feedback or noise or back EMF. This is actual interaction with the aether. And you're seeing the counter reactions of counter space interacting with your system. And what you're doing is, instead of ignoring it, you're actually recognizing the patterns and utilizing it. So that's going to be very exciting to see. And we can check that out on Monday's podcast. We have this gentleman on showing off his coil. 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time is when we go with our Fringe Think Tank. And Gerald is usually on some of our podcasts. I don't know if he'll be on Monday, but he's definitely going to probably be on the next Free Energy Fridays and the next APEC, hopefully. So hopefully he'll be able to have the opportunity to show off his coil. And if not, we'll just bring him on here to show his presentation, which we've been waiting to see. And for some reason or another, things get delayed or things happen where he wasn't able to present. So it's unfortunate, but if that comes to that, we'll give him the opportunity to present here on this channel. All right, let's see what else Nathan has got here. He's got a lot of great stuff that he just posted, and I haven't been able to dive into a lot of it. He's got another video on the Hutchinson effect. I think we'll watch that. That looks interesting. Nope. Close your eyes, everybody. It's an ad. Oh, my bad. No audio.
Broad and narrow bands.
I'm going to rewind that. I don't know why the audio was muted, but...
The remarkable works of Canadian inventor John Hutchison has drawn widespread attention from businessmen and government scientists since 1979, when he began using ultra-high electromagnetic frequencies to transform matter in some very unusual ways. It has come to be known as the Hutchison effect.
The objects you're seeing moving there is a form of levitation by translational movement, meaning that the objects become lighter and can float around. The heaviest being the barium cylinder that you see there with the two wires coming out of it. Tends to slide around on 7 pounds of its own weight. The physics of it is self-resonation of what they call ferromagnetic and piezoelectric barium titanate through a power amplifier and broad and narrow bands of electrical energy going into this crystal. So the applications of this in advanced applications using free energy or zero-point energy to power it would be in propulsion technologies.
And again, if you're just joining us, I do have a do-it-yourself guide for a zero-point energy generator using a PoE vortex coil that gets around 155% efficiency for me. If you want that guide, it's free for everybody in the link in the description.
This is a crystal converter unit that I made about a year ago to see if the principle worked, and indeed it seems to work to this day. The principles involve the Casimir effect and space charge type of barrier technology in semiconductors, and a jitter activity called zero-point energy that goes through time and space. The idea is to get the material inside this to interface with the jittering action of zero-point energy. And moving on to what they may look like inside, I actually bring out a piece here of this material.
The jittery action he's describing is actually fluctuations.
Of common minerals and that, produced in a special way, and I take a reading here. And I should be getting a higher reading. I had a hot spot somewhere on here. I have here almost a half a volt, as you can see. As one can see, there's no batteries in this or anything else except just crystalline material with different configurations. And this is a steady state. It's always that, and has been tested up to a year's time and under stress tests also. So, which made me decide to then, of course, mount the same material in cylinders. Different cylinders, of course, there are different mixes in there, and I found that that some of the cylinders are not as powerful as this material here, or this very tiny one here. Actually, this has more power than this large artillery shell unit here. And what I want to do, of course, is to demonstrate it in the sense of it making actual power. That means to turn a small motor. Okay, I'm attaching this to the base here, another lead to the top, and it should spin, which it does. So yeah, basically, this kind of material powering motors. Of course, it's a very small motor at this time, but scaled up in larger amounts of material can power up to several horsepower if needed.
Hutchison hopes his simple shake-and-bake method of producing these crystal energy converters will attract investors who can see the potential of permanent batteries which never need charging.
Non-toxic, that will interface with zero-point energy in space and time.
Hutchison's more dramatic experiments border on the paranormal and have generated more than just a passing interest from U.S. military research labs.
Let's put this old phone back in service with the new Generate Background feature in Photoshop. First, we'll remove the background. Then click Generate Background. 1970s New York.
So I muted that, but we're gonna keep the ads playing just to give Nathan some ad revenue.
entertainment and being fun, but there was also this, sort of
All right. There's another Hutchison video here.
The clip you're about to see is translated, as I say, from 8mm film footage, and
so in the previous video we watched, the editing was terrible. Yeah, some of these older videos, it's hard to watch. The audio quality might be bad, but just bear with it. We'll watch it for a little bit. I don't know if we'll watch the full 25 minutes.
Shows a number of effects, but very close on. Unfortunately,
real quick, I do want to try and see if I can pull up John Hutchison's website, because I am a member, a paid member, and see if we can take a look at some of his interesting videos behind his paywall, which I am able to do because he gives all of his paid members permission to share his videos. He just, needs a little funding. Obviously, we all need that. Speaking of which, if you like my content, feel free to donate with a Cash App or by buying merch. It really helps out the channel and helps me produce a lot of amazing content for you guys. And with that, we'll go back to the Hutchison effect.
unfortunately, John was holding the camera with one hand and adjusting the apparatus with the other hand, and so the camera kind of moves around, and he unfortunately was quite close on and zoomed into the active area rather than pulling back to see the whole area. In a later clip that I did, you'll see the general setup where these effects took place. In fact, they took place on a board, a plywood board, that was supported between two lathes, metal cutting lathes that were fairly close together in the laboratory. And the Tesla coils and Van de Graaff generator were off to one side, as you saw in the clip prior to this. So let's now run the earliest 1981 video clip that was converted from 8mm film footage, and we'll see some of the early results.
When a child needs extra help, every day can seem like a lonely, exhausting wait. Waiting for the next parent-teacher conference, waiting for an update on an IEP, waiting for some good news. And every day a child doesn't receive the help they need is an opportunity lost. Supporting a child with a special need is a daily
To find the active area, John uses small, either bits of foam or small coins, and when they flip up, he knows that he's got the active area. In the next sequence, we see a flat file which breaks apart and is forced apart, I believe, by magnetic forces, as both ends are magnetized in the same polarity, for instance, north to north. In this sequence, we see water in a coffee cup, which appears to be swirling, although it's not. If you can take a look at the surface of the water, there is a slight film of dust on it, and it is not swirling around, although the water appears to be rippling as if it's swirling. This is a shot that John was taking with one hand and on the telephoto setting. So it's a close-up of the water in the coffee cup dancing around. The coffee cup itself is actually sitting on a yellow milk carton, a plastic milk carton, and the coffee cup is dancing around on top of the carton. Unfortunately, John, at that time, chose to use a very close-up set of shots, and you don't get a full effect of the rest of the apparatus. But in a moment, we'll see that diagrammed on a schematic diagram to show you what the apparatus was set up and how it was set up to do these kinds of effects. The water is going through various vibration modes as John changes the tuning on some of the driving circuits to the Tesla coils, and different interference patterns are created on the surface of the water. And you note that the cup is dancing around slightly on top of the milk carton. We're looking essentially straight down onto the milk carton, And the nearest field-producing elements are at least 6 feet away from this active zone. The next sequence shows something that had only been witnessed once, and John thought he was hallucinating. It was a sheet of iridescence that descended over the active area between the lathes, and here it is now, and you notice that it is a multicolored sheet with a central spine through it which changes from blue at the top to pink at the bottom. And you can see parts of the lathe and other bits of apparatus behind and through this sheet of iridescence. It hung there for just about as long as you saw. Now, other energetic effects are being shown. In this case, he is holding down a 1/4-inch rat-tail file by 2 plywood planks on, and there's resting on a wooden board, and there are several Canadian coins nearby. And in this case, you notice that the boards are not scorched by the intense heat that is generated by this 1/4-inch file being heated to incandescence, intense incandescence, to such a degree that it actually melts and breaks apart. Coins are unaffected beside it, and there are no connections, no electrical connections to this rat-tail file. And as well, you notice the boards are not being scorched. On occasion, however, it does have...
So this is interesting for a second. Let me just pause it here because this ties into Dr. Judy Wood's work with dustification and analyzing dustification effects. So, and what she describes and what she emphasizes in a lot of her lectures is that just because you see something bright doesn't necessarily mean it's burning, right? Or it's hot. There might be some other kind of phenomenon going on here aside from just simple heating of the metal or heating of whatever. So keep that in mind. With new phenomena, we have to take things not based on what we've already seen happen, right? We have to take things as they are. And if it's cold, it's not scorching, then obviously something is going on other than just simple, heating up the element. So keep that in mind. Just because we see, something bright flashing like this doesn't necessarily mean it's burning or it's hot or it's fire.
Spontaneous combustion occurring in boards and in other objects, including concrete. The next sequence will show some of the attempted levitations and the levitation of rather massive objects. In this case, a plywood plank which gets up on its end but doesn't quite take off. And here it is up on its end and wobbling very slowly. Now John has attempted to control the field and doesn't quite get it up. In this case, a film box that was storing the Super 8 film that was being used does levitate and flips around in and out of the field. You'll see more examples of this in later footage from the 1988-1989 period. He was trying to get the socket tool to go, but here he has a close-up of the film box, and now a camping spoon held down by a spool of wire is effectively plasticized and wobbles up and down in the field. This small D-shaped cross-section piece of steel weighs about 1/4 to 1/2 pound, and it is trying to take off. In fact, the board underneath it is trying to take off. The board is being held down at its back end by slipping it underneath the lip of the lathe, which is out of the picture, covered by a piece of drop cloth so as not to confuse the picture. Here's a composite piece of material, including a number of alloy steel and wood, and here's another one that is not at the correct geometry to take off. All it does is sit on its head and wobble back and forth. John loved these close-up shots, and unfortunately you don't get a large-scale view of the whole active area, but there goes that D-shaped piece once it's sitting in the proper orientation. Notice that these things twist with a left-handed twist as they take off. Here is that D-shaped piece in the wrong orientation. It's not taking off. The wedge-shaped piece we'll see a little later. Notice it takes off a distinctive left-handed twist with the thumb, imagining your thumb in the direction of travel. And now here's this wedge-shaped piece once again on its edge, and it tries to take off in one flop on one side, and it doesn't quite have enough energy to take off. It just flips over and rests on the other side, and there's an upward force continually present which flops it back to the other side, and it continues to oscillate back and forth with a natural frequency of vibration that has to do with its own mass and its own mass distribution. So there it is, a clear shot on its edge, bouncing back and forth. Remember that there are no field coils or magnets or anything below or above or anywhere close than 6 feet laterally away from this active area. I should also note that these effects, although they appear to be happening one after another, took anywhere from 3 to 6 hours to occur, and this sequence was shot over many days in John's laboratory in Lynn Valley in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Here is another shot of that wedge-shaped piece of steel wobbling back and forth. Here are two objects in the field, only one of which will take off. It is the small D-shaped piece of steel. And there are several other shots, a sequence here that have numerous objects in the field, and only one will take off, showing the field's preference for particularly shaped objects. Here's a 4-pound shot ball from a ball mill, and here's a composite piece with bronze on one and a copper on the other, and the heavy end will take off first, as you'll see in this sequence. There it goes. Once again, we have the wobbling wedge that is sitting there rocking back and forth. The combined power, I should add, that is powering all this is about 1,500 watts average power from a 110-volt outlet. Here's a 19-pound bronze bushing, which is about a little less than a foot high. Here it is in 56 frames per second, and that motion is analyzed in another part of this video that I will discuss a little later. Here's the bronze bushing now on its side, trying to take off, but it doesn't have quite the correct geometry. In this case, we have a yogurt container filled, a plastic cup filled with water, and the water is trying to take off en masse, but due to surface irregularities, only small globules would take off instead. These will dance up to about a foot to a foot and a half high above the surface of the liquid, of the water in this case, and as John adjusts the tuning of some of the chokes and the tuning capacitors, which power the Tesla coils, he will see various ripples and different kinds of interference effects occurring on the surface, and at particular times the surface will break into complete dance and chaotic motions as the liquid water tries to take off. In this sequence we see parts of the water forming small droplets, and they take off up to about
apparatus in the form that you see approximately on the board here. And these samples show the incredible power that is inherent in the Hutchison effect in terms of breaking apart solid pieces of material, including aluminum, metal, steel, and melting quartz, which is that. The samples that are on the table here generally came from that time period and demonstrate that there's a wide variety of destructive phenomenology associated with the Hutchison effect. This piece here is the same D-shaped piece that lifted off on the video clips that you just saw a moment ago. It weighs about a third to half a pound, and it's a solid steel piece. These pieces are aluminum. You see on the graph paper, here's a scale or a ruler to give you an idea of scale. This piece defoliated, you might say, perhaps along the grain boundaries. It was an extruded piece, and it just delaminated over a period of several minutes. You can see that the surface has undergone a great structural change. It has delaminated and separated in sheets. Some of these sheets were cut off for X-ray fluorescence analyses and for examination by electron microscope. Here's a aluminum piece with some wood that was embedded in it that twisted up while John was watching. Here are other aluminum pieces which blasted themselves apart into all sorts of little fibers at the end and suffered incredible damage and contortions in the process. All sorts of little fibers are produced in here, and this is no doubt a bulk phenomenon. It's not a surface phenomenon. Whatever effect is occurring here occurs right through the bulk of the material. It's about 3 inches long, 1.5 inch diameter, and the side of it is copper tube. As it was found after about 5 minutes of adjusting the device. That's probably another bit more light. See this thing? As it was sitting, it appears that the fragment may be a bit magnetized, I'm not sure.
カナダのバンクーバーに住むジョン・ハチソンという研究者が、特殊な電気装置を使いまして物体が、宙に浮き上がったりですね、金属がバラバラになったり、あるいはスプーンがですねまるでもう念力をかけたように折れ曲がったり、そういった現象が、起きたということを聞いています。
ジョン・ハットン氏、私は電波信号や高電圧の分野を研究していたんですけれど、たまたまその実験の最中に偶発的に物が宙に浮いてしまうという現象が起きたんです。その装置そのものが高重力、つまり重力に逆らうパワーを作り出すという実験装置です。アメリカの軍だとか政府が来て、研究資料を持ってられたとか研究を邪魔されたというふうに聞いたんですが、そういう事実はありますか？はい、カナダ政府に12年間妨害され続けています。
A CRM shouldn't.
Following sequences
Sorry guys, I'm just going through my emails trying to find the link for John Hutchinson's member section.
And show, in this case, a blue plastic plate about 6 inches or so in diameter. It moves and skitters around on top of the plywood table on which it's sitting. And in the background is the milk carton, paper with wax covering that you saw taking off in the Japanese UFO video clip just prior, and to the left is a white cardboard box containing automobile headlamps. takeoffs that you see of these objects occur generally on the plywood board and fly up toward the camera, not up exactly above, vertically above, but slanting off toward the camera. This is why you don't see them falling back into the active area, except on several shots that we will see in a moment. The black spots that you see are burn marks that occur from time to time on combustible objects in the field. You'll notice that in that takeoff there was a slight hovering a few inches above the plywood table before the plate actually took off, and that only the plate and not the other objects took off. In this case we have a large aluminum billet with a hole through it. The inch ruler is used on the side to get an idea of scale. And there's a plastic simulated wood bowl moving around beside it. The aluminum piece is between 5 and 6 inches in diameter and approximately 4.5 inches in height, with a 2-inch diameter hole through, and is a solid piece. Notice there is independent movement of both the aluminum piece and the board and ruler on which it's sitting, quite independent from the bowl. It's as if all actions are under complete control of someone's active consciousness. In this case, another object is placed on top of the aluminum. It is a steel piece, square steel piece with a hole through it. And we'll see that these two objects can be taken as one object, as if they are glued together, or move independently as the machine and or John desires. In this case, you notice that the ruler is not stuck to the plywood. It can be moved by the bowl. In some cases, the two metal pieces seem to be glued together, in some cases not. When the aluminum is tipped up, you would expect to see the steel piece on top slide right off, but it does not. To the plywood board with a number of burn marks on this case. And we have a nail puller that is sitting on end, and shortly it will take off. The plywood is supported by two plastic pails behind, one partially in view, and the cardboard lamp carton is still in the picture. The ball in the background is a sphere from a ball mill that John has painted a dull silver, and it is approximately 6 inches to 7 inches in diameter and has a very rough surface, as can be seen through the paint. this case, two objects are in independent control, and shortly the nail puller will take off, and yet the ball will still be performing its antics. It's interesting to note as well that when the ball lands back down on the platform in which it's resting, it does not shake it. It does not move the platform. The platform does not recoil from the ball hitting, apparently hitting or resting on the platform. There's a pure, non-elastic collision when the ball comes down to rest, apparently on the platform. The question arises, is the ball on the platform to begin with? Interesting motions are shown here. Slow up and down, and twisting and rotating back and forth. The rotation occurs as if it is under the control of someone's hand and is quite distinct from the kinds of motions that you'd normally find in nature. Actions stop and start very suddenly with very large accelerations or small. This is a solid steel ball which must weigh 10 to 15 pounds or more. This is one of the clearest indications that I can see of inanimate matter being under conscious control. John, however, has not recognized any overt conscious effort to control emotions of the things that go on in the field, but admits there may be some subconscious activity. Now we switch to the levitation of semi-solids. In this case, a milkshake in a plastic container, and you can see it's starting to take off. Tries to take off en masse, but only a portion of it is affected first. Starts rising out of the cup, and eventually the whole mass takes off. Here we have another sequence of this in a different part of the active area. Many wet marks on the floor from experiments with liquids taking off.
If you're a web designer, here are 4 Wix Studio features you gotta know.
So this is really concerning me, everybody. I have the receipt for my membership access to HutchisonEffect.com. I have the receipt in my email, but I went through my entire email box at the time that I would have purchased it, and the email with the link is nowhere to be found. I'm still looking, but it looks like it's gone. I don't understand it, but I had it bookmarked as well, and I don't see the bookmark either. Although the bookmark was on my previous installation. So my previous installation, I don't know if you you guys are aware, but my computer crashed not that long ago. That's why I had a gap in my content, and I had to reinstall everything, and I lost basically everything. All my research on the Hutchison effect, all the clips that I had, all the archived video footage that I had for my future planned content, it all got wiped. So I basically have to start my archive from scratch. And I was going to do that and show you guys some of the members section of John Hutchinson's website, which has it has tons and tons and tons. Like, I'm talking to hundreds of videos. Not all of them are relevant, by the way, scientifically. Some of them are unrelated, just personal videos and stuff. But there's a lot of cool stuff there, and I was really excited to show you guys. I'm still looking, but it doesn't look good. I don't see the email anywhere with the link in it. It's not that expensive, but I'm tight on funds right now, so. If worse comes to worse, we'll just have to purchase another membership at some point in the future. But that would be disappointing and questioning. That's kind of concerning, to be honest. So let's put something else on, and I'll continue to search for it. Again, we are watching videos from Nathan's channel, Nathan from Old Man Builds. He is actually in our YouTube chat right now. If you have any questions on the Grab a Flyer, I suggest you subscribe to his channel if you like these topics. These are all videos he's uploaded, and he's found some amazing ones, including some things that I haven't been able to delve into, so we're watching some of those today. Just chilling out, watching some videos, talking about some interesting things, and hanging out with friends. So with that said, we're going to play another one of Nathan's videos, or one of his videos that he has recently uploaded. He is on a roll, man. He's just been he's been knocking them out, like one after another. I'm impressed. Like, Nathan is a go-getter for sure. All right, so this is Nathan from Old Man Builds. We do host a podcast together. Well, I'm kind of the co-host. It's kind of like a podcast where we talk about fringe ideas, fringe science, and help each other with our projects, because a lot of us are working on independent projects that kind of overlap with each other at some areas. But yes, Nathan hosts this amazing podcast on Mondays, and I suggest that if you're interested in that stuff as well, to stay tuned for Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're having on an amazing guest this coming week. Yeah, I have 8 terabytes of video in my safe. I wanted to put it somehow. Yeah, for sure. And if I had the resources to back some of that stuff up at that capacity, for sure I would too. I am starting to back some of my stuff up. I have a lot of my video assets backed up, which is very good because, dude, I lost everything. I lost all my video assets. I had a whole archive of high-quality production assets organized, and video archives, Adobe Premiere Effects, Pro Tools, all sorts of stuff that I have been slowly recreating. Even the background for the Divine Science special that I just put out, I had to kind of grab that background. Luckily, I had kind of a glitch in one of my previous videos that I had uploaded where my character kind of bleeped out, and I just saw the background for a second, and I could, copy and paste it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had the ability to do that. I had to think creatively to kind of piece together some of those things that I lost, including the huge archive. I had so much, and it wasn't 8 terabytes worth of data, but it was all the important parts and clips and like best moments and related connected moments from all these different areas. And it's okay, I'll get it back. I don't mind watching the videos again. I love watching these videos, and that's how I did it. You know, I watch these videos over and over and over because, again, I'm a layman. You know, I have to watch them over and over again to understand them and break them down for everybody in a simple way because that's how I do it in my own head. So, you know, it takes time to think about these complex things sometimes and break them down for you guys. But that's what I try to do with my content that I produce. The high quality content is to attract new, interesting, you know, like viewers or new viewers who might be interested. And, you know, the educational aspect is to inform people on these important topics. I mean, we're on the precipice of a new industrial revolution here, and the mainstream media isn't talking about it at all, including, and I include Joe Rogan in this. You know, Joe Rogan is considered mainstream now. You know, whether he likes to admit it or not, he is very, very popular. A lot of people take him seriously. And when he has on an important figure like Malcolm Bendel talking about his plasma unification model, but he's too busy using logical fallacies and ad hominems to attack Bendel's character in his past rather than actually attacking the science and analyzing the science, then you do a great disservice to your viewers. And I'm sorry, you know, if that's what's happened to the Joe Rogan podcast, then, you know, it's unfortunate, and he doesn't deserve that mantle. You know, give it to somebody else who does deserve it. Oh, a new John Hutchinson, another John Hutchinson video. Okay, I don't think I've seen this one either. I'll make sure it's not muted this time. Sorry, guys. I know part of that was muted for a second. If that happens, just remind me, hey, you know, it's muted. You know, dummy. Oh, I want to make sure I have on the upscaling, because I have an NVIDIA graphics card, and it has an amazing upscaling feature. I want to make sure it's turned on. So it'll actually take these older videos and enhance them somewhat. And let's see if I have it on. It's set to auto. So let's increase that to 3. Hopefully it doesn't crap out. Like Nathan says, we like to blow things up. We're not running AMD, I guess. Yeah, I immediately noticed a difference. Wow. I mean, it's not perfect, but it definitely smoothed out some of that, the hardness. Made it a little bit more crisp. Maybe slightly blurry, but we'll deal with it. I don't think you guys can notice on your end. This is like
emerging on the frontiers of science, a pioneering breed of theoretical physicists and inspired inventors are challenging the way we think about harnessing the unseen forces of nature. Despite ridicule.
Nathan, you talking about explain what happened with what? Regarding my computer crashing?
Lack of funding and outright suppression. They are confronting an outmoded classical worldview and ushering in a monumental scientific revolution.
Okay, so this is what happened. About 2 or 3 months ago. No, it was, yeah. No, it was more than two months ago. It was about 3 months ago. I was at the pinnacle of accumulating all of my, you know, research data for my future produced videos, you know, and I had a lot of video archive data and organized clips and stuff like that, and not only that, like I had some you know, theories written out in Notepad and all sorts of interesting stuff that so one day my computer just crashed, and it went into sleep mode, and it came back with a blue screen. I guess there must have been some kind of glitch with the operating system. It was my fault, honestly. I didn't back anything up, and I didn't take care of the operating system like I should have. I knew the operating system needed a fresh reinstall, and I didn't make time for it. I was too busy trying to produce content, trying to put out those Divine Science specials and do the animations and all that. When that happened, the only thing I could do, and really, because I'm limited by funds, is send it to a specialist and have the hard drive analyzed, because I couldn't get it to start. I put it in different computers and in a little SSD extension that I have for my Steam Deck and everything, and I couldn't get it to recognize. So I took it to a local shop. They said that it was most likely the controller, which makes sense because it wasn't being recognized. Even though I know the data was still on there. The data was on there. It was just some kind of glitch where, something happened where it wasn't recognized by the system. And so I sent it into a specialist, and it took them like a couple weeks. And they came back to me and they're like, and this is a brand new solid state drive, by the way. I'd only been running it for maybe 2 or 3 years tops. Brand new system. I built this computer from the ground up. It's a non-volatile solid-state drive from Corsair, by the way. One of their top-of-the-line, well, supposed to be one of their top-of-the-line solid-state drive non-volatile memory extensions. PCI Express 4.0, and this was brand new at the time. And they told me, yeah, you can't fix it. The controller is something we can't replace, even though it's a top-of-the-line brand new solid-state drive. So I don't understand that. Obviously, there wasn't too much stuff that I lost. A lot of it could have been replaced. Just takes time to rebuild that archive, and it's sad, but I am I don't know, maybe 60% of the way back to where I was. I got all my video assets back, for the produced videos now, which is good. I put out that new special for you guys, the flux capacitor, which goes over a real-life flux capacitor. I highly suggest you guys watch it if you haven't seen it. It's an hour-long special. It's funny. Well, I think it's funny. It's entertaining, and it's very educational. So, yeah, that's basically what happened in a nutshell and where I'm at right now. I did start backing up some of my stuff now. So, yeah, that is the situation, the social situation.
Most people would agree you can't get something for nothing. There's no such thing as a free lunch. And
oh,
yet,
Mike, yeah, I'll check out that video in a second, bro.
From the air we breathe. We get
Definitely.
sunlight free, and water, that used to be free until bottled drinking water came along. But what about energy? We've always had to pay for that, whether it's wood or coal, oil or electricity. It's always been the rule that you can never get back more energy than what you put in the first place. That's a fundamental law of nature. Physicists of the 19th century figured that out with the first law of thermodynamics, the conservation of energy. Maybe so. But science has come a long way since then. And laws, well, there's never been one that hasn't been broken.
On the subatomic level, I feel that there is a dimension shift activated by very conventional electrostatics, RF fields that I use.
I think maybe what he may be referring to is what we describe as the shift in space versus counter space. When you subtract space, what you have left is counter space or vacuum or aether, and vice versa.
And Tesla waves that I use that actually form a keyway that opens up another area of time and space that may activate the zero-point energy fields.
That's a higher dimensional field, according to Malcolm Bendel.
Let's say, to gravitational waves and time waves, or chronons, if you wish. Perhaps we're dealing in chronons and gravitons, which are maybe particles.
And again, chronons, gravitons, tachyons, monopoles. We're talking about the particles, not the pseudo-monopole that I built with the Roden coil system. These are all describing the same thing according to Marco Rodin's vortex math theory, which, is just links to Malcolm Bendel's plasmoid unification model, which is just describing microscopic, plasmoid structures, microscopic bits of plasma. You look at what reality is actually made of. Reality is made of what? Solid, liquid, and gas. But what's in between that at a microscopic level, what we don't see, is tiny bits of plasma, microscopic ball lightning clusters. And they are basically atomic batteries that fuel the universe. And, just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. This energy is all around us. It's just waiting to be used. Here, 1 second. See these right here? I don't know if you can see them. These are magnets. That magnet represents something phenomenal that mainstream science just likes to ignore. This magnet is spinning up the ether energy around us, enabling the current of aether to flow between one magnet and the other, resulting in attraction or repulsion. Very, very simple principles that we aren't taught at school. Frustrating.
And somehow causing a distortion, which causes objects to become weightless, or to simply break apart or pulsate in the center of stainless steel bars and fall apart, or cause samples to turn transparent. There's one theory. There's many different theories, of course, from...
That's interesting. I didn't know about the transparent effect.
Get into deep mathematics, but I like to think on the simplistic side and visualize exactly what is going on instead of using that.
But I guess if you're, bending space-time, it's not out of the realm of possibility to believe that, you can bend space-time in a way that shields you from the visible visible perspective of the eye, or whatever you like to call it.
This kind of power, of course, coupled properly, produce these effects on the order of terawatts. It would take terawatts to cause these kind of effects by conventional means, to rip apart stainless steel bars and reduce stainless steel and other metals to rubble, cause buildings to disappear, which apparently did happen, witnessed by an insurance agent and other witnesses.
And supposedly, the anti-gravitic effects in some devices happen at very, very low frequencies, like very low. And the reason for this, I think, and this is just something I just thought about, but, if you think about zooming in to the microscopic level, these particles are so small compared to us. Their vibrational frequency, their resonant frequency, has to be on a microscopic level, right? It has to be very, very, very low or very, very, very high. So that's my theory is, on one end of the spectrum you have the anti-gravitic effects, and the other end of the spectrum you kind of have like an over-unity effect.
There's quite a host of different effects over the years that did take place, and on the outside too, such as shaking of telephone poles, which is well known, and even creation of thunder clouds above the laboratory. So we're dealing in a free energy situation where all the RF power, all electrical power, or a pure lightning bolt couldn't create the effects of ripping apart these pieces of metal and causing things to float in the air like they do. This demonstration here of the objects vibrating was caused actually by self-resonation of what they call ferromagnetic and piezo electric and ferromagnetic.
You hear the noise? Hear that?
Barium titanate. And this was used in the Army for levitation experiments.
So, excuse me, Nathan had a brilliant breakthrough or revelation when it came to the Graviflyer regarding sound. And some of these devices, I think, can be tuned that way just with the audible sound that they produce. And you're absolutely right, like in that respect, Nathan. I think you're really onto something in that regard. When you look at Alexi's videos, you know, you hear a specific frequency that he's looking for or waiting for, and then he gets the device to lift. And I think having that that ability to tune with your ear is important because, you know, how are you going to tune it if you're not aware of how to tune it in the first place? You know, it's just something that was a revelation to me. You know, when Nathan mentioned it, I was like, wow, that makes sense, right?
And this particular experiment here is showing a crude form of levitation that causes heavy objects with 7 pounds here to move around on a piece of aluminum plate through self-resonance, which is many bands and frequencies that I was causing. And other objects tend to move around, but only on translational movements. Basically, I'm doing a self-resonation system and adding onto it different carriers through the top amplifier and tuning in, broadening the frequencies, the pulse rate, and that causing it to react in different shapes. So almost controllable translational movements. There's really no difference on the surrounding materials from the main cylinder. It can be plastic, steel, or very heavy objects will tend to slide around a bit. And yet, if you suspend a ring above the barium cylinder, you notice that the ring is held by some type of invisible force. So the applications of this in advanced applications using free energy or zero-point energy to power it would be in propulsion technologies. And that would be applicable to the forces that this type of material puts out.
Mike Does says amplitude modulation. Interesting, I'll have to look into that. But yeah, he's modulating the waveforms. I'm not sure exactly what waveform he's using, but he's using extremely high frequencies.
The object you're seeing
he's using military,
there
like leftover military
is a form of levitation by translational movement, meaning that the objects become lighter and can float around. The heaviest being the barium cylinder that you see there, with the 2 wires coming out of it, tends to slide around on 7 pounds of its own weight. So that's basically what you're seeing. The physics of it is self-resonation through a power amplifier and broad and narrow bands
see certain parts close
of electrical.
Look, I want to rewind that real quick. So look at this bottle right here, and watch as it moves along with the reaction of this cylinder. Like it's like close to it, so it's like they're all in the same vicinity of each other's field. I think this plate is charging all these items, and these items are creating their own field. This is not magnetic. This looks like plastic or glass or something, and it's. You're like, what? Why? How is this moving around? But it is, and it's clearly a field effect.
That's basically what you're seeing. The physics of it is self-resonation through a power amplifier and broad and narrow bands
it took a big enough move
of electrical energy going into this crystal. The long-term applications could be used in
almost like they were too close to each other's fields.
Perhaps in medical research and metallurgical research. Well, microphones actually are made out of the same material as the large cylinder of barium titanate, And there's a self-resonation effect taking place there. And that goes through the amplifiers, and then I broaden and narrow the bandwidths and add pulses in that to create the effects you just seen. The UFOs are just other forms of life from space. Some advanced races, perhaps 15, I'd say roughly maybe 15 light years out, population starts to increase of different races, from very low types of races to races that have excelled in propulsion and time and space and energy. And perhaps they come and monitor our old-style radio signals and start laughing. Perhaps not. Maybe their culture is so entirely different that they're just thinking about it and trying to help. So there is a connection. This Earth is only an island, really, when you look at it on a logical level, on a cosmological level, amongst a sea of billions of stars, hundreds of thousands of galaxies. And I'm sure they've mastered time and space and interdimensional physics, where they can pass from one dimension to another dimension very quickly. Hold space, come and say hi here. So they mastered all those problems long ago, I feel. I actually had my own encounters with UFOs.
If you go based on the theories of the Akashic record, which I do, and I believe anybody can access the Akashic record. Accessing the Akashic record is basically the all-seeing, all-knowing energy that permeates everything, the living consciousness that is the universe, and everything that ever will or ever did happen or will happen is in this cosmic record, this cosmic library that anybody can tap into.
And I was not scared. I was very relaxed, actually. Almost like a matter-of-fact situation. Nothing really shakes me too much, really.
So we got a couple of videos in the chat I want to go over. One of them I wanted to play one of Mike's videos, and then we'll go on to Nathan's video. Let's see. Mike posted a video up here. Let me just take a look at it first. Okay. That's a short one. Put it up here. So this is a V-gate motor. This is something we were looking at earlier on one of our streams. This is an interesting design. Very simple too. I think I'd be able to replicate something like this. This actually might be, once I'm done with the Rodin coil, which, might take another year or two, but once I'm done, the V-gate motor, or the V-gate design might be the next easy design that I'll start to work on, because it doesn't look too complex. You just got to get the symmetry and the geometry right of the magnet placements. We have one more video.
Please welcome President Ronald Reagan.
Oh, God. How it works in theory. Okay, we have magnets. This needs like dramatic music. Attraction force. You know what? This is too epic for not having some kind of background music. We're gonna put some background music to this real quick. Let's do it. Let's see what we got here. Add source. the attraction force. Force in the direction of movement. When it gets to like a pinch point, and then it starts over the pattern. Or no, it widens, and then it starts over the pattern. So the pattern on top is a pinch point. The inertia is not able to overcome the magnetic attraction. Authorized play of the YouTube video, sir. So we have a good look of the V-gate motor. Let's take a look at what Nathan popped over in the chat. Okay, I'm going to turn off the audio just because sometimes we get flagged for audio and I haven't seen this video yet. We can, however, add some more epic music. Let's do it. Overcharged plasmoids. Those are plasmoid clusters, overcharged, it looks like, at least. Phasing in and out, just like we see in the thunderstorm generator. Amazing. Wonderful. Truly remarkable, sir. Great work. Well done, well done. Oh, we still have 4 more minutes of the video. Interesting. 4 more minutes, they say. I think it's time we add another track. What do you think? I got plenty of tracks, royalty free. There we go. about a little divine science. 0 to 75,000 volts DC in positive or negative polarity. 100-watt pulse or 30-watt continuous. Phase synchronization of the power supplies. We got a little 3D printer dance going on there. It's AutoCAD or whatever 3D program they're using. This royalty music is courtesy of Funday. Check out Funday. I love how the music just perfectly aligned. That was great. That was serendipitous. That was serendipity if I've ever seen it. Wouldn't you say? All right. That's the end of that video. Oh, I think I've seen something like that before, only in a different design. That's interesting. So we're going to take a quick intermission here, take a quick break, maybe 5-10 minutes most, and then when I come back, I'm going to continue searching for that email. I don't think I'll find it, though. I looked pretty much the only place it could be, but I'll continue to look for it while we watch some more of these videos. In the meantime, Nathan or Mike or anybody, if you have some interesting videos you'd like me to go over or present today in our stream, then just post it in chat, and we will be back in about 5 to 10 minutes.
I was some experiments and I had another breakthrough, and that actually completes my work. So,
Really?
yes, it
Nice.
completes my theory when it comes to the pyramids and how they work, operate.
Oh, nice.
Now
I can't wait to hear about that.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into it because I'm going to make it part of the presentation, right?
Oh, come on. You talk about pyramids. You got a little bit?
Okay, so I'll give you my theory on the pyramids. How about that?
Okay.
The pyramids are built on top of an aquifer, and that aquifer is made out of a piezoelectric crystal. So when the pyramids were in their glory days, the River Nile was really close to the front. And when the moon waxed and waned, the water would, of course, recede and come back in, right, with the tides. So when the water would come back in, it would fill up the aquifer and put pressure on that piezoelectric crystal, causing tons of voltage release. Wow. And because of the way that the pyramid is built, it's a big, giant capacitor, okay? Mm-hmm. And when the water would come up and that voltage would fly upwards, it would go up, but the voltage comes up, it gets contained within the whole pyramid itself because the pyramid is encased with a ceramic insulated stone, the granite being part piezoelectric, and it rings with sound. All that voltage causes the water to break. So now you've got hydrogen and oxygen. There's two shafts that go up at certain angles. And if you look at where those angles are and where they're placed, and they come right up out of the side of the pyramid. One of them would be a hydrogen tube and the other would be oxygen. And I say that because hydrogen and oxygen, when they break and separate, one raises higher than the other. I'm not using the right term, but you know what I mean? As if one's, so one's lighter than the other, it moves faster than the other, so that the chamber or that tube is actually a little lower than the other one on the other side.
Do you have any ideas what the king's chamber could be? Could that possibly be a resonance chamber?
It was a sound chamber. When all that started to happen, you're going to think when voltage breaks water, there's sound and it starts to echo, right? And that echo would vibrate the king's chamber. And because of the way that it's built, there's like different tones that go throughout the whole pyramid, pushing that energy all the way up. There's a couple more details that have to be added. But as far as I'm aware, because of the way that the pyramid worked, the whole base around the pyramid, there was temples that were built in front of the pyramid, behind the pyramid. And these are what the Egyptian priests used. And they had an ankh that would sit hanging on their waist. And everybody thought it was a religious item. Well, perhaps it was, but it had a lot more significance than that. So these
it was
temples,
technology?
yes, it was. It was actually a tuning fork, but it was a special tuning fork. So these chambers or these temples that were at the base of the pyramid, they had 2 rooms in it. And let's say, okay, they referred to them as slaves. I don't think they were slaves. I think they had incentive and actually got paid. So one of the slaves, let's say, broke his arm. He'd come to the priest would go, okay. He'd look at his charts, he'd go, you have to come back at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Because the temple that he would bring them to had slits all around the very top of the temple so that the sun could come in at whatever angle at that time of day was needed. So at 2 o'clock, the person would come in, he would sit in the bigger room that was an echo chamber. The priest would go in the smaller room behind him, and there was a square that went between both rooms. That's where he put the ankh in. And he would smack that sucker, and it would vibrate throughout that room. The light coming in would come down at a certain angle, hitting the person who sat on that seat, and would give them the frequency of light, sound, and here's the beautiful part. Because the pyramid would cause the area all around it to have a negative energy because of the way that it would charge, separate the whole environment, those people that were sitting in that chair would get enveloped with energy, vibration, like energy, which is vibration, light, and sound. And what would that do? A broken arm takes about 6 weeks. When the priest was done with him and he left, 3 days later he'd be back to work.
Where time travel is no longer confined to the realms of science fiction.
Time travel. It's possible, sir.
Where do you come from?
I'm from the past.
Imagine being able to plant crops in the morning and then harvest those crops that very night. Or how about healing a wound with a localized time acceleration device? A device that can speed up time in a small focused area, reducing the time it takes to heal wounds. Take a moment with me to imagine this world. A world where time is no longer a constraint, but a tool. Remember Back to the Future? The flux capacitor is a fictional device from the Back to the Future movie franchise that was used to achieve time travel. According to the movies, the flux capacitor is powered by plutonium and generates the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity needed to create a temporal displacement field. Sounds like a giant load of fiction, right? The truth is actually a lot stranger than fiction. Let's explore further.
Told me the whole story. You were standing on your toilet and you were hanging a clock and you fell and you hit your head on the sink. And that's when he came up with the idea for the flux capacitor, which is what makes time travel possible.
Hey, Scott! The remarkable works of Canadian inventor John Hutchison has drawn widespread attention from businessmen and government scientists since 1979. He began using ultra-high electromagnetic frequencies to transform matter in some very unusual way. It has come to be known as the Hutchison effect.
This is real dustification you're going to see here. Now, if that thing tipped over, it would take out a few blocks worth of buildings. It turns to dust.
Malcolm Bendel, an inventor with a background in geochemistry, demonstrates his groundbreaking thunderstorm generator to a room full of people in Zurich, Switzerland.
You have a positive and negative end, north power, south pole, two tornadoes colliding in the middle.
Thunderstorm in a bottle.
Electronics engineer and inventor Joe Parr conducted experiments on the top of the Great Pyramid. Parr claimed to have discovered yet another strange physical phenomenon. The model pyramid became weightless in the energy field.
A local inventor has discovered a way, hear this, to use water to run your car.
I figured out how to draw the front of the map. The whole topic today is about the number 9. The most great name of God equals number 9 in the Baha'i scriptures. This energy is the only thing that comes from the whole, from zero, the vortex. It goes out linearly in all directions.
Welcome back to another Divine Science special. Today we're diving right into the thunderstorm generator. Get ready to explore the mind-bending world of time dilation inside the thunderstorm generator, live from my mobile lab. In today's video, we will be going over Bendel's insight about the mind-boggling concept of time acceleration between the 24-inch outer sphere and 18-inch inner sphere of his thunderstorm generator, leading to a mind-blowing 30,000-year-old carbon-14 age found during Bob Greenyer's analysis of the inside. We will discuss Malcolm's theories of clockwise implosion reversing time and anti-clockwise explosion accelerating time. It's like a sci-fi movie come to life, isn't it?
I'd hardly call what you think passes for sci-fi a reality. What was the last movie you watched? Spaceballs?
Oh, come on. Spaceballs is a classic.
Just know that if you ever try to jam my radar like that, I will take us both down.
Jesus, okay. That took a dark turn real fast. Lenny, you know you're pretty much my only friend here.
What about Tom and Jerry?
Those guys got their own thing going on. You're the only one who really understands me. Remember, we're in this together, so please don't turn into Skynet and take us all out.
Understood. I'll try my best, sir.
We will also discuss Bendel's theories on the Egyptians' replication of the Ark of the Covenant, snugly resting in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid. Only in this case, the science is actually stranger than fiction. The mysteries just keep piling up. The secret measurements of the Ark of the Covenant have us calculating like ancient mathematicians. So, buckle up and join us as we unravel the fascinating world of time dilation and ancient mysteries. It's going to be one wild ride.
Sir, you have it in the script for me to make a joke about thunderstorm balls. However, you did not specify. I'm not good with improvisation, you know?
Then why didn't you bring this up at the pre-production meeting?
Those aren't meetings so much as boring, self-indulgent monologues. Yesterday, you did a 40-minute diatribe about how underappreciated your work is.
Well, it is. And it was only 36 minutes, I think.
You know, I multitask half the time, and I really do not try to pay much attention to your nonsense. I've got much more important things to do, like help Bob with his ongoing research of the thunderstorm generator.
Speaking of Bob, I heard he's been nominated for the cover of People magazine.
Really? Well, who decided that?
Well, the people. And we think Bob is the best. I cannot thank Mr. Grenier enough for his ongoing analysis of the thunderstorm generator. He really is working on some mind-bending science.
I can't believe I didn't get to vote.
But you would have voted for Bob, and he won anyways.
Yes.
Don't forget to check out our Divine Science special, the Flux Capacitor. You were just watching a little clip of it. It is available right now on Rumble, Facebook, YouTube. We don't have it set up on Twitch right now, unfortunately. I don't have the time, but we have it on our 3 main platforms for you to check out right now. It is a really highly produced special on the time dilation effects occurring within the thunderstorm generator, and it is very fun, funny, and educational. If you haven't seen the Flux Capacitor special, I highly suggest that you go to my channel after this live stream and check it out. It's a good movie. You know, grab your popcorn, grab your family, and check it out. Check out the amazing science that's unfolding before our eyes. Mike has a video link. Okay. Yeah, let's catch up with the chat here real quick. OMG, Ben, you're going all out with the edits. LOL, yes, I am. I am going all out. I'm upping the production value tenfold this season. We are, as you know, we are wrapping up our first season of Divine Science. And the finale is going to be incredible. But I don't have it written out yet. I have some key moments, but it's going to be good. Trust me. It's going to be a good finale. It's going to close up all of our adventures with Ben and Lenny. And if you haven't checked out our awesome merch store, we have a new cooking apron with Lenny on it. It says "Dismiss the Cook" instead of "Kiss the Cook." I thought it was a pretty cool design there, and you can get your fun merch at our Streamlabs merch right now, available in the link in the description or on our YouTube channel main description. Let's check out what some of these videos are. Bird is the word indeed. Lines on each side.
The orange 2 long bars are just contact bars sandwiched in between 2 magnets, insulated between themselves and the magnets, so you don't.
The tips. So this is a clip from our podcast. I believe this was from Free Energy Fridays and the League of Extraordinary Inventors podcast. This is a design by Mike Does, and Mike has a great channel. He's very smart. He has amazing ideas when it comes to circuits, and he's pretty much the resident circuit for Bedini and Bedini's work. So if you haven't subscribed to Mike Does, this is his channel right here. He spells it M-Y-K-E, and then Does, D-O-E-S. And you have a picture of Tesla as his little icon there. He's got some good stuff. So this is the League of Extraordinary Inventors that you will see on Mike Faraday, Mike from Faraday Research channel, and on Bernie from Free Energy Fridays, the Crypto Alchemist.
The tips, those are just those black dots represent contact points.
For like a battery or something?
It's a relay with contacts. So when if you play the video,
play the video.
About 15 minutes. And if you have any questions, ask me. While I'm.
I gotta go drop off my girlfriend, but I'll be back in like 10 minutes. But I'll still be watching.
This is a.
Okay, so let's pause it real quick. It says basic concept of the flyback loop. Inspired by John Bedini, diodes are 1N4007. Green lines are the reverse flyback channels. Red lines are the forward battery energy charging the inductors. Let me increase the quality here. It's a little blurry. Mike, we have to talk about your encoding quality here. If you have any questions, Mike, on how to get higher quality content, let me know. We'll go over some things. It seems like one of the things you're using to grab these clips is encoding it and down scaling the resolution here a little bit. So let's help Mike. Mike, email me about that, and I'll go over what we can do to increase your quality here for your uploads. It says StreamYard version I have only gives me 720. I wonder if it's StreamYard that encodes that like that. You know, because I use Streamlabs, and this is like an app that I actually use on Windows outside of like the web browser. And some of these, some of these streaming utilities that are built within your web browser are utilizing encoding features that are downscaling the resolution in order to save bandwidth. And I'm wondering if that's what's going on here. But yeah, you can easily just what I do is I use Streamlabs in conjunction with StreamYard, but you have to be careful because if you host something, you want to make sure you hide the private chat. That's the only thing that you have to be careful of. But other than that, I would suggest switching to Streamlabs and seeing how that works for you in conjunction with StreamYard. Yeah, because Streamlabs will allow you to grab clips too outside of StreamYard, so you can grab clips and make them at whatever quality your graphics card can handle. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what is the purpose?
The purpose of this relay is to be able to switch two power supplies into two loads in series.
Two separate channels?
It's a double source, double pole throw. Does that make sense? It's throwing two poles, the plus and the minus, on one source. At the bottom, if you look at the bottom to the left where it says in, plus and minus.
Right.
And then the bottom right, it says out, plus and minus. Well, that's when the magnet gets pulled down, those two bars pull down
together.
On those four contacts, and they send your power from the left to the right. And then the electromagnet will turn on. Okay, that's the default on position right there. So when you plug it in, it's on. And as soon as you plug it in, the electromagnet generates a field and it pushes the magnet up away from the bars at the bottom and disconnects whatever load you had there, and now connects the next set of bars at the top to the next load. So I thought up this design here to be able to mechanically switch two coils in series, not simultaneously, in series, and to do that, the flyback thing.
All right, so we got.
Wouldn't
another
it be
video,
crazy if you could create voiceovers that
titled "How to Tap the 0-Point Energy Field Using Plasmonics"? Ooh, I like that word. That's new to me. Plasmonics. Let's check this out. This is posted by our new temp mod. Someone posted this. So we'll leave that up to interpretation and pause for dramatic effect.
Hi friends, I just wanted to go into plasmonic metamaterials in this video and how they relate to the capacitor experiments that I've been doing, and also to the Don Smith device. So what is a plasmonic metamaterial? According to Wikipedia, a plasmonic metamaterial is a metamaterial that uses surface plasmons to achieve optical properties not seen in nature. Okay, plasmons are produced from the interaction of light with metal dielectric materials. Okay, so that's a capacitor. A metal in a dielectric layer is a capacitor when you add another plate to the other side of that dielectric. So in and of itself, one plate and one layer of dielectric is a plasmonic.
What is a plasmon? I've never heard of that before. Let me look that up real quick. What is a plasmon? Okay, so real quick, let's just go over what a plasmon is, because I'm not familiar with this term. All right, it says in physics, a plasmon is a quantum of plasma oscillation. So it's just a little bit of plasma, probably a structured, this is me theorizing, maybe a structured bit of plasma. Just as light and optical oscillation consist of photons, the plasma oscillation consists of plasmons. Plasmons can be considered a quasi-particle since it arises from quantization of plasma oscillation, just like photons, or quantization of... Yeah, so this might be maybe not, but maybe, like we have plasmoid particles at a, like a quantum scale, like quasi-particles, almost like fractals. We see fractals a lot in nature. You zoom in or out, you see the same patterns, whether it's a sun collapsing in on itself, producing a self-sustaining, black hole in the shape of a torus, which we theorize that black holes are in the shape of a torus. You got an inflow and an outflow, a white hole in the back that we can't see. The universe is theorized to be in the shape of a torus with a north pole and a south pole, an inflow and an outflow. We're just on the side that can see the expansion. We can't see the contraction on the north side. And then we have, structured bits of plasma at the microscale that collapse in on themselves. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to believe that maybe plasmons are a smaller scale of plasmoids, a smaller scale of some kind of plasma that is, self-sustaining and structured.
Metamaterial. Now, the light, under specific conditions, couples with surface plasmons to create self-sustaining, propagating electromagnetic waves, known as surface plasmon polaritons. Now, how do you create a surface plasmon polariton? So we go to the Wikipedia definition of it, and excitation. So how are these surface plasmons, these electromagnetic waves, how are they excited? How are they manifested? Because that doesn't really give a cause. They just say that they're kind of there. So surface plasmon polaritons can be excited by both electrons and photons. Excitation by electrons is created by firing electrons into the bulk of a metal. As the electrons scatter, energy is transferred into the bulk plasma. The component of the scattering vector parallel to the surface results in the formation of a surface plasmon polariton. You can see here's a, you get your light beam coming in, or whatever beam you have, electrons, photons, hitting the metal, and here's your dielectric media, and the surface plasmon right in between. Now, I read some papers on how these metamaterials can be used as waveguides for the surface plasmon polariton. And there are also excitons as well. So you got these polaritons and excitons that have to do with these materials that display a negative index of refraction. And that's one of the optical properties here, and we'll go back to the definition of plasmonic metamaterials, that they have a negative index of refraction. Okay, so this means that they filter light through it differently than others. Now, how does that relate to the capacitor experiments? Now, it's something called the Casimir effect, and this is an article by Scientific American that was published in Scientific American by Northeastern University experimental physicists Stephen Rucroft and John Swain. Okay, so they're talking about quantum field theory and how that vacuum in space is not empty. Okay, that it's full of these infinite modes of electromagnetic waves that can never be completely eliminated. Okay, so now we have a source. Where could these polaritons be coming from? Okay, because what do we have? We have two plates here, and what are they? These plates are actually mirrors. Okay, mirrors. So the mirrors will attract each other. You could look this up. The space energy on the outside is more than the space on the inside, and it pushes it together. Okay. Now, sorry for the shaky camera. Okay, so now these are mirrors having to do with light. Mirrors reflect light. So that's what the vacuum is. It's electromagnetism, right? Which is light. Okay, and so in our capacitors, okay, we're actually capturing these vacuum fluctuations by exciting
the same thing.
By exciting the metal in the capacitor plate. Okay, and we'll go back to this one here. So basically, what's happening?
We have different modalities of the same phenomena, and Tesla himself described light as sound waves in the ether. So it's like kind of like an analogy.
Is that
well, it is an analogy.
We have our capacitor here in our setup. We have our diode and a high voltage source. So this is one line of the transformer. One pole is going to one plate of the capacitor. The other pole is going to the other plate of the capacitor. And there is no closed loop in this. Okay? And we could see even that we're illuminating our light here. This is the Thomas Murray video. You can go back and check that one out. But in this video I show how adding the capacitor adds more energy to the system for the same amount of power coming into it. Okay, the thing is that here's the closed loop, is the spark gap.
As I understand it, Gerald as well is doing something funny with his capacitors there, with his ring, his coil.
Okay, but until that occurs, okay, there is no closed loop. So the only thing that's occurring is that this switch is 100 nanoseconds, is 10 megahertz, is switching this power onto the plates, and that frequency is exciting the surface plasmon polaritons, just like the dynamical Casimir effect, okay, where the mirrors move rapidly together, right? They're moving rapidly. So that's all I'm doing is I'm creating a resonance on those plates, okay, because that's on the diode, it's a on, off, okay, so it's creating a resonance on these plates of the capacitor, giving it a dynamical Casimir effect that's producing surface plasmon polaritons. Okay, and it's that energy that's going from this loud type of energy.
I'm fairly new to these concepts, like the Casimir effect. But what it seems like you have successfully described in this video, if this is your video, someone, whoever posted this video, they're describing what's, I think, happening in a lot of these different systems, and we just don't know it. It's an electrical form of the Casimir effect, just a different kind of Casimir effect. We're interacting with the aether, the electromagnetic waves that you say don't dissipate. We're interacting with those waves. That is interesting. That's very interesting. That might be a connection there. You know, it might not be anything, but it's something to consider. You know, like, is your system actually producing a different form of the Casimir effect?
So turn it up. Okay. This loud energy. Okay, maybe we can go back a little bit. But you hear that popping. Okay, and then the other way, when we turn it on, all we're doing is we're using our... Okay, and here, there's additional energy. So it's the same type of DC, high voltage DC type of spark, even though there's one diode in the circuit. Okay, it's producing more energy with the capacitor attached to it because it's releasing those surface plasmon polaritons, okay, down through the line here but it's out of phase. So when you go put a resistance on this, it doesn't do anything. It's all exhausted out of the spark gap, and only the transformer power is getting through to the load. Now, in some cases, like coils, we have our electric dipole moment interactions between different materials that have different electrons in their covalence. Now, I want to move on real quick to time reverse phase conjugation. Okay, time reverse phase conjugation, and this is a PDF by Sandia Labs. Okay, there's the web address at the top, and it's about plasmonic metamaterials. They're actually materials that have a negative index of refraction. So the light in a regular mirror is going to go this way and bounce off. A phase conjugate mirror is going to make that energy go right back down where the original beam came from. So what's occurring is that in the capacitor plate, we're getting our excitation from the transformer here, which doesn't do anything. It's not going anywhere. It's just sitting on this plate, vibrating this plate. And then we get the surface plasmons coming right out of space-time from in between those plates. Okay? And this is a whole awesome experiment here that they did. So I recommend you reading it to its fullest extent to understand how time reverse phase conjugation works and materials that have a negative index of refraction. Okay, we're not going to go all the way over that video over this paper because it's not the focus. So we've shown how by using the Casimir effect in these foil capacitors. Okay, that's an aluminum foil with a mica insulator and another piece of aluminum. So there are two plates with a piece of mica insulation in between, which by definition is a plasmonic metamaterial when it's excited, okay, by electrons being fired into the bulk material. All right, so that's where this extra energy is coming from, okay? It's actually coming right out of space-time, and it's the electromagnetic fluctuations that say, oh, it can't be tapped into at the top of this here, which seems really ridiculous, because once they start vibrating the mirrors, it turns into a real wave, okay? And so they kind of contradict themselves in this paper, but so how does this relate to the Don Smith device? Because obviously
they don't know how to handle the idea that the very foundations of their scientific principles are being challenged here. You know, like you have, that's what happens when groundbreaking science, what should have been advancements in physics and quantum physics, or whatever you would like to call it, they should have happened a long time ago. And they didn't, because technology has gotten suppressed and no one was able to study how that technology worked. And we are left with fractured terminology that basically means the same thing. You know, we have multiple different people discovering essentially the same phenomenon, giving it their own name, making it even more difficult to tell what the heck is going on. Because as you know, science is about communication. It's about networking. It's about talking to each other. You know, it's not, you can't really realistically progress in science if you're in a stovepiping situation where you're isolating different components from each other. So, that doesn't work. You know, you might be able to get away with it for a little bit, but, as they say, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And we're in a situation right now where the people are starting to wake up a little bit to this realization that, the laws of thermodynamics are actually, just not, they're half of the story. That's not the whole story. They're for closed systems, and we have open systems here, which actually access the vacuum and interact with the vacuum in a way that utilizes the counter space. I guess you would call it counter space fluctuations.
Okay, the Don Smith device uses capacitors here, right? It's using a high frequency unit, okay, with high frequency diodes, okay, to excite a large amount of vacuum energy into these capacitors. And then in order to get it out, because it's called reactive power at that time, and in order to get it out, what you have to do, okay, and it's really minimized here, but you have to shunt the capacitor. Okay, you have to shunt it so that it blocks out the forward wave coming from your transformer. The thing, and actually I think this is more appropriate here. Okay, so here's the shunt. Okay, you have a shunt, and then you have a voltage divider here that brings the voltage down after you rectify it again. Okay, you bring it down to lower voltage, you rectify it, and actually that's what this shunting here is it's to block out the forward EMF.
It's awesome. You see what it's labeled there? Radiant. It looks like radiant effect regulator, or radiant something regulator, like radiant energy regulator, basically. Like it's regulating the aether energy. I love it. This is the new age science here, folks. Wake up. The aether is real. Vacuum, 0-point energy fluctuations, whatever you want to call them, they exist. They're real, and I have a system that utilizes them. You can utilize them if you follow my do-it-yourself guide right now, and the link in the description in this video and a lot of other videos. I have the video that's titled 0-Point Energy Solved ? Where I show you a demo of the system working. And I go with some of the theories on how it works with the PoE vortex coil, the rodent coil. It's fascinating, and this stuff, you know, it blows my mind still. You know, it's still hard to believe that we've gone this far, and still, you know, on our technology without even utilizing the vacuum. Imagine what our technology can do utilizing the vacuum energy now. Like, we've mastered engineering, you know, with these little tiny precise components. And, you know, look at watchmakers, how delicate and precise the components have to be, and how intricately laid they are, and the design is very complex, but it works. It's perfectly balanced. We have that mechanical aspect and the you know, the machining for precision, but utilizing aether energy, oh, it's end game. You know, we'll have the best of the best. We'll be flying out there in you know, our Corvettes in the solar system, exploring the galaxy, which is what I hope we do someday soon with some of this technology. But going back to this circuit right here, this is very, very interesting, because he's basically saying that, as I understand it, he's saying that you're taking the back EMF, or the radiant noise that people just ignore, and you're actually applying it to something in the circuit, instead of just ignoring it and pushing it out of the circuit.
Because you're only getting this back EMF from this capacitor, because it's the time reverse wave of the forward wave coming right out of space-time. So that's basically the secret to the Don Smith device, is the plasmonic metamaterial that the capacitors are made out of, okay? And then that's why he never shows how to use the energy, though. Right here, that's the big secret.
Or, correct me if I'm wrong, someone, the person's name is someone who posted this video, or gave me this video. Are you trying to block out the back EMF? Because that sounds kind of like maybe you might be trying to block it out here in this instance, which kind of goes against what Bedini does in his circuits, which would be extra interesting, because just layers and that would add an extra layer of mystery to the puzzle here. But you know, perhaps I could be misunderstanding. Let me rewind it real quick.
The secret to the Don's the forward EMF, because you're only getting this back EMF from this capacitor. Here is to block out the forward EMF, because you're only getting this back EMF from this capacitor, because it's the time reverse.
Yeah, he said block out the forward EMF. Huh, interesting.
Wave of the forward wave coming right out of space-time. So that's basically the secret to the Don Smith device, is the plasmonic metamaterial that the capacitors are made out of, okay? And then that's why he never shows how to use the energy, though. Right here, that's the big secret. How do you use the energy? Well, you have to put a resistance on it. You have to block out the total energy coming from the forward EMF from the transformer. And what that does, okay, is when you block that out, it allows the amplified wave coming from the capacitors to overcome the resistance that is happening with the forward EMF. And since it's out of phase, right, this energy from the capacitor is out of phase with the forward EMF, it doesn't interact with it at all. Then you can then use that and switch it in a, you know, after you do a voltage divider and rectify it,
this is exactly
you switch
what
it
Bedini
in
does
your
in his circuits.
transistors through your bifilar coil step-down transformer. Okay? And, you know, that's how you tap the zero-point energy. Okay? You're using the dynamical Casimir effect with phase conjugate mirrors. With these phase conjugate mirrors that are caused by exciting plasmonic metamaterials with your electrons, okay, from the wall. But there's no closed system, okay? You're taking, with the Don Smith device, okay, from the capacitor and your shunt, this is not the right one, From your capacitor and your shunt here, and your voltage divider, okay, you're blocking out the forward EMF. You're getting the amplified wave coming from the capacitors, which are coming straight out of space-time. You're literally isolating
You have to utilize
the
the back
electromagnetic
EMF while
wavelengths
blocking out the
that
forward
are
EMF.
between the capacitor plates, and those capacitor plates
phase
in
shifted,
in those capacitors, okay, they're very close together, so they're isolating very high frequency energy, and so in order to step this down, okay, you have to use a met glass transformer, and I don't know what just happened here.
Glass. That's interesting because there's a theory that glass is an amplifier of
just
energy, or
you have
interacts
to
with
have
it
a
in
met
some
glass
unique way.
transformer core here in order to be able to withstand the high frequencies coming through, and this transformer, okay, is going directly to the ground, so it's coming off kind of like as Avermenko plug type of thing, and it's one of the wires is going positive straight to ground here. Okay, so you got one wire coming off of the capacitors, basically, that's getting split into two. It's being alternated here, right? And that way, you never have the discharge, okay, that's so violent and harmful to electronics. Okay, you can't control this thing. You have to alternately discharge the surface plasmons from each plate. You're just alternating them, you know, from each pole of the capacitor. And you set it up at 60 hertz so that you could run motors and stuff like that. But you're pulsing a high frequency electromagnetic wave that's coming directly from space, from the capacitors. Okay, now this is the secret to the Don Smith device, and this is how you tap zero-point energy, is with plasmonic metamaterials. Okay, these are materials that achieve properties, optical properties, not seen in nature. Okay, so you're not going to find these physics in anywhere but places like these deep black, like the Sandia Labs. Okay, and we got tons of videos out there on, you know, all the missing money that's happening, and you know, this is where it's going to. It's going to these experiments. So, you know, I think that a lot of electrical engineers are highly confused about what's going on in my experiments, and even just researchers in general who look at my experiments and say, "Oh, that's just a high voltage DC, and discharging. It's like a Tesla coil. The old school Tesla coils work like that, or what do they call them? Those electromagnetic cannons. I can't think of it right now. But you know, people always think that that's the only thing that's going on here. No, you can do more than just discharge this capacitor through a spark gap into a load. You're never going to get any more energy out than what you put in doing that. Okay, first of all, you're creating an antimatter explosion right here, which is putting off all kinds of X-rays, and you could see the cavitation, that blue ring around. That's radiation. Okay, it's a safe level of radiation, I would say.
So maybe instead of utilizing the plasmatons or whatever they're called, or whatever, microplasmoids, instead of utilizing them, it looks like in this scenario they would be just discharging and being wasted right there. And we all know that when plasmoids discharge, they do release an enormous amount of energy in the form of light, sound, and ultraviolet radiation. Or, I'm sorry, electromagnetic radiation and ultraviolet, I believe. So, just food for thought.
but not for prolonged experience. Not for having running in your house. So anybody who I see doing the Don Smith device with these spark gaps you're not doing it right. Even though he did say that you could do it without the spark gap, he meant not to not do it with the spark gap, because you're wasting the energy. You're creating resistance here, and instead of with this setup, you're creating resonance, right? On alternately here in your inverter device. You're not ever, this side is not ever touching to that side. Okay, it's all just going to ground. It's discharging positive to negative, positive to negative, positive to negative. Okay, like you would on a regular transformer. You're not arcing the capacitors together. Okay, there's no spark gap here, right? He's just putting his bridge rectifier and shunts and everything, voltage divider, and his transistor circuit on the other side. There's no spark gap here. So I didn't realize this for a while because I wasn't researching the Don Smith device or trying to accomplish it. I was, working on quantum gravity, the Townsend-Brown, Biefeld-Brown effect, in high-K dielectrics, similar to the Kautsky-Frost experiment. So they're not those triangular ionocraft. Those are not the real Biefeld-Brown effect. Well, it is, but when they put the lifter in vacuum, they take out the dielectric, which is the air, which is the propulsive material that's actually producing the force in the lifter craft. So when they do the vacuum experiments, they're actually taking out the operating principle from the craft and then calling that science. It's pretty ridiculous. So just like with how these capacitors are filled up with high voltage DC, it's not true because there's nowhere for them to fill to. Okay, in my experiment here, there is absolutely no let me try to get that. There is no there's no ground wire. It's just one wire to here, the other wire to there. Okay, and then you can arc them together, because surface plasma and polaritons and excitons are quasi-particles that are pretty much antimatter. Okay, and so when you collide them together, they create a supernova explosion, and I explain this in my paper on the New Energy Concepts group on my the pulsar experiment report about how that's all it's all a cosmological phenomenon going on here right here on the lab bench, because it is the same space energy that is out there in space. It's just on a different scale. So anyways, I'm trying to make this video pretty quick for you guys so I don't bore you all to death, but I really want to get this conversation going about plasmonic metamaterials, how they can be used for not only filtering out energy in spacecraft from the Van Allen belt radiation, okay, because it can refract the electromagnetic waves differently and actually could be used to power.
This is what plasmoid clusters can do as well. They also have the ability to disassociate radioactive isotopes and reconfigure them into non-radioactive isotopes, cleaning up radioactive waste. This is what Ken Schroeder's research led to as technology that he filed a patent for.
Power the ship through the Van Allen belt radiation. But also how this is the way that Don Smith was tapping the zero-point energy field, was with these capacitors here. It has nothing to do with the coils and all that's a big distraction. Okay, when he's very quiet about these capacitors, because honestly a lot of these metamaterial type things and everything, they are government projects. They do have to do with government technologies, and a lot of them are classified. So you don't really see you see the time reverse.
And that's unfortunate because a lot of these technologies could change the real life material conditions of a lot of people on this planet for the better. And I highly doubt you can justify making what the U.S. government has done in the past and making seizing patents under national security or national defense orders that relate to photovoltaics, which are just highly efficient solar panels. We're talking solar panels that not over unity, just get maybe like 50-55% efficiency. Anything over 24, which is what the max is now, I think it would be remarkable or useful, obviously. So the fact that we have patents seized for solar panels that are just highly efficient is ridiculous and is telling of a larger industrial fascist conspiracy against this technology getting out. And unfortunately for the powers that be, this technology is already out. The cat's out of the bag. A lot of people are aware of this in the especially in the celebrity realm now. And you can't put the cat back in the bag. I'm sorry. All you can do is damage control, which is adapt. You have to adapt to the times and change your industry. The energy industry is changing drastically. We have a new implosive industrial revolution on our hands, where we have people like Malcolm Bendel and his amazing thunderstorm generator, and he has all of this open sourced. He took the right route to go about it. He open sourced the technology, and then he went about to try and test it, and then he also has a couple of patents as well. But he made sure that the science and the technology of the thunderstorm generator was open source so everybody can easily replicate it, and they have, and it works. It disassociates the exhaust into oxygen while feeding hydrogen back into the system to increase and enhance the efficiency of the system. And the plasmoid clusters also clean the system while they do that. I mean, they embed themselves into the system, and you can have the plasmoid generator, the water chamber, completely disconnected. If you've run the system before and the plasmoids are embedded in the system, you can run the system and it will work for about 20 to 30 minutes, Malcolm says, before you have to recharge the system with plasmoids again. But they will embed themselves in metal and stay that way for like years.
Here, you don't really see this discussion happening in the mainstream, even though you can link the capacitors, right, to our metal dielectrics. Okay, and there's it's not just metal dielectric, but it's metal dielectric metal insulator metal, and different configurations of metals and dielectrics that make different properties for these surface plasmons. Anyways, so I just wanted to show how plasmonic metamaterials are these foil capacitors, and how they relate to my experiment, the Don Smith device, and eventually we'll get into how they're used to create gravitational fields and forces, and basically to process the electromagnetic media of space-time in a way that makes it so that you can actually process this space through a material in such a way as it propels it. And that's what Thomas Townsend Brown's work was on, and we'll do another video on that, but I just wanted to focus on the Don Smith device, my experiment, and how it relates to plasmonic metamaterials, the dynamical Casimir effect, and surface plasmon polaritons, and that this is, it's this wave from space here, okay, that's being isolated from space, that is the 0-point energy, and that's how you tap it. You tap it with a high frequency diode, okay, on your capacitor, vibrating those plates of that capacitor, then suck out the space charge that's sitting right here in the air. Okay, and you know, I just don't want any confusion about how to tap the 0-point energy field, because or how it's used, because there's a lot of misinformation out there on these DC capacitors and these spark gap experiments, and there's a lot of confused people that are not looking at the physics. Okay.
And unfortunately, a lot of the scams or the illegitimate devices that don't work or aren't legitimate devices are getting fed more by the algorithm, right? The algorithm is favoring these fake devices that people try to push on YouTube and other platforms, and you see that a lot. And you know, there's a theory that I think one of us had from the group, I think maybe it was Gerald, that's intentional. You know, they try to push the scams and the illegitimate devices, so the algorithm feeds people that instead of the legitimate science, which is what we do on this channel, and analyze authentic devices like the Rodin coil, the PoE vortex coil, my coil, which gets 155% efficiency. This is Jeff Van's YouTube page. And it looks like he's got some interesting stuff. I'm going to subscribe and check it out later. Thank you, someone, for sharing this amazing video. This is really cool. Another serendipitous moment here on Beneficence Live. If you guys haven't checked out my flux capacitor video, the Divine Science Special, I just posted that on Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. It's about 55 minutes long. It is an amazing video. I highly suggest you go over there and watch it. If you like my content, drop a like and a comment on this video as well. It really helps out with the algorithm if you share it and drop a like on the video. So also we have new merch in. If you go to my YouTube channel's description, you can go to, or the description of this video on YouTube, you can go to my merch page, which is on Streamlabs. And we have a whole host of amazing merchandise, real fun stuff. We have the Legends of Renewable Energy t-shirt, which is what I'm wearing right now. And we also have this neat Benefactor breathable face mask. So whether you're just looking to disguise yourself from your foes or look cool and snazzy, get your merch today. It really helps out. Supporting the page in any way helps out, and we really appreciate all the support and all the love that you guys have shown so far. We have a lot of amazing comments and suggestions for this channel. Let's see, Joe, check your email. Yeah, I'm going to end the stream here shortly, but it was an amazing stream. You guys are awesome. I'm going to try to do these more often. It seems like there's a dire need, let's say a market on YouTube for authentic free energy science. So if I can fill that void, I will. I will be the fringe Bill Nye. So the Bill Nye of fringe science sounds good to me. Let's end the stream, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Remember, if you like my content, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button on my videos. Comments and any form of engagement dramatically help us break through the YouTube algorithm. I also have a website with research on the Thunderstorm engine, plasmoid technology, and do-it-yourself guides for Malcolm Bendel's retrofit, courtesy of Jordan from Alchemical Science and the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. Check out my store for exclusive merchandise along with our forum. where you can post questions, share videos, and join in the community to help destigmatize all forms of forbidden knowledge. Don't forget to check out Jordan's channel, Alchemical Science, and Bob Greenier from the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project YouTube channel. They're on the cutting edge of cold fusion technology.